Alrighty, welcome back to the stream, and welcome back again to BlockBall, where we're going to be working on the world's premiere clone of Pong that I'm making. So, I'm just listing over here. There we go. Music today is, as usual, from StreamBeats. You are listening to the lo-fi playlist from that website, so go check that out. It's always nice and chill. Really, the only one that I don't like using is the EDM playlist, and that's not because it's a bad playlist, but it's just like it doesn't fit with what I'm doing. This fits much better. All right. Right. So, this week, today, is hopefully going to be the implementation of controller support. Now, last time, I used the testing room to create the test object, and the test object had... So the test object has, oops. Okay, we're good. I hit my cable for my microphone a little bit. All right, so the test object here. I'm not sure why I had the settings menu open. So, test object, anyway, had the create event, which got the count of players, assigned variables to whatever for stuff. But it got all the players, you get the gamepad count, you assign variables, I get a loop that tracks how many times, or that tracks how many gamepads there are, it tracks where they're located, and it notates all that stuff. Then you have call user event 1, which happens on the step event. R resets the object. 1 is the thing that actually does the assignment of stuff to the players. Of course, you have the step event here, which just keeps going through until such a time as all this stuff is assigned, and then this is the stuff. Okay. Right. So. we are going to be making a master control object, which is going to be taking care of a lot of this work for us. And what I'm actually doing, let me get rid of the testing room because I don't need that for the moment. And rooms, set this back to main menu. There we go. So what I'm actually going to be doing is, in addition to that, the main menu object here is going to do something on create. So main menu, open this up. Let's close everything besides this. So on create event, in addition to all this stuff, it is going to run another event. We're going to call this user event 3. Other user event, or user event 4, I guess. The user event 4. So if, no, I want to see if, I want to, so I want to check if there is an instance. If an instance exists, if object master controls exists, or rather, if it does not exist, then we're going to create object master controls 00 on the layer instances, I suppose. It doesn't really matter. That's fine. Then we're going to set here variable, assign variable for target. Let's call this contmast. Inst control master controls, and it's going to be contmast. All right, and then assign variable in master controls dot, what was it? It was persistent. Yeah, persistent. Yep. In master controls, a persistent value set to true. So, what this does here is, on creation, on the first time the room starts, effectively, the first time the game loads into the main menu, this will create the control object, the master control object for controls, in the room. And this variable I set here, persistent, means that that object will maintain across every room. Now, the reason that's important is because you don't want to have it have to check every single time who is player 1, who is player 2. So if I didn't have this, every time you entered a new room, it would have to run through the check of which controller is attached to player 1, which controller is attached to player 2, so on and so forth, and would have to recheck each time to see if there's a new controller. That's not great. You don't want to do that. That's stupid. But like this, it checks once whenever I set it to check, is there a new controller plugged in, or is there, whatever. And it'll maintain those variables and that information until the game closes. And the reason why I have it set here at create event is, first, so that it doesn't spawn multiple times, and that's why this instance also exists. If object master control does not exist, it'll spawn a new one, which will only happen on the main menu, and it only happened the one time ever. That's what I'm doing there. So shut that down. I don't need that information anymore. Now, another thing I also want to do is I was looking at the GameMaker stuff, like the GameMaker tutorials, and they have a article here about how to do... It's not taking to the article. D. There we go. They have got an article here on how to actually set up gamepad control for your game. So I'm going to go through this real quick just to make sure I've got everything sort of understood. And since it's going to be me reading a thing, I'm just going to capture the window as well. It's underneath. There you go. You can see what I'm looking at. Now, all of these tutorials, always, you can find them like blog, coffee break tutorials or whatever. These things always point you towards specific demos, which have been made like for the purposes of experimentation and testing and showing you like how to do it. Because obviously, why would you make a thing that can be read by anybody when you can just make a thing that works with a specific thing, which gives you all the information? You can't make a good tutorial that works for every situation, because what about if they're doing something stupid like I am? Anyway. Once important to GameMaker, take a moment to look over the project, blah, blah, blah. System event. The first thing we're going to do is an asynchronous system event to the controller object. We want our controller to handle who is playing and what gamepads are connected, and this can all be done quite simply from this event. Asynchronous system event has been added to GameMaker Studio designed to trigger when certain system level changes are detected, like plugging in or removing of a gamepad, so that's actually very useful. So, open the object control, add the event by selecting add event asynchronous async system. Okay, so let's do that right now. I can close the master event. Main menu of master, I don't need that for the time being. So, asynchronous. And this is system, or what is Steam? I'm curious what that one's about. Let me actually look this up. Alright, there's the asynchronous system thing. I don't know if there's, like, specific special things for this or what. Like, I don't know how you get specifically a gamepad trigger off of this. Now, let me see here. GameMaker 2 async events. So, here's what it says about asynchronous events. Audio playback, recording, cloud dialogue, HTTP, in-app purchase, image loaded, networking, push notification, save, load, social, Steam system. Interesting. An asynchronous event is one that's fired off when GameMaker receives a callback from some external source, which should be from the web or from the device running your game. Callback is only a function that runs when then triggers another function or code block when finished doing whatever it was assigned to do. For example, the function sprite add will trigger callback in the asynchronous image load event when the sprite has been loaded. Okay. So it's basically just when something's done, it tells it. Note that asynchronous events are fired off for all instances that have them, much like keyboard events. So you can, for example, do an HTTP GET call in one instance, yet have the asynchronous HTTP event in another to deal with callback. Oh, okay. That's actually incredibly useful. So just as an example, the example given here is audio playback. So what you could do is you could have one instance do audio playback, like, and actually, like, whenever it hits the barrier. Whenever it hits a barrier, for example, the ball makes a little whoop or whatever noise. You could have audio playback asynchronous event happen, which triggers if that event occurs. That audio is playing back on the ball event, but you can have a just regular item, an object sitting outside of the game effectively, that will read that event occurring and then fire off something as a result, like spawns on the ball, particle effects. And that's all it does. So it only affects it when there's sound, for some reason, if you want to do that, but you can have it so it only does that when there's sound playing. Interesting. And audio recording, same thing. Like, in particular, that example I gave would be better suited just putting on the ball object, but this could do something if... Because that's also completely unrestricted. Anytime something generates a sound, it'll do that event. So there's some power there. There's some power there, all right. Should be aware that due to XSS protection of browsers, requests and attempts to load resources from across domains are blocked and may appear to return blank results when using any of the following events. The variable async load, which is mentioned in the following section, is only valid in these events. As the DS map that it points to is created at the start of the event and deleted again at the end, with this variable being set to a value of -1 at all times. This is save load. Loading and saving buffers to files. Oh, I see. Okay, so let's go to... I'm curious about Steam and System. This event can only be triggered by callbacks from some of the Steam extension functions, which I'm not familiar with. All Steam functions in GameMaker have been moved out of the base run and are now part of an extension which can be downloaded here. It's from the marketplace. For information on the Steam extension functions, please refer to the manual provided with the extension package or the extension menu on this website. I see. I see. So these are just things that, like, you can Steam Cloud with the saves. General Steam API, Steam Cloud, DLC achievements, Steam overlay. Like, there's some achievements here. Set achievement. Name of the achievement to set. Ah! I see. So it's really simple, actually. It's literally just a little thing that hooks into Steam. Like, it's basically pre-programmed for you. It just hooks into Steam, and then you set a variable of you just set the variable to trigger the Steam achievement, and it sets it. Neat. Here's what this looks like. Let's see, Marketplace, YoYo Games, Steam extension. Free. Create item, query UGC. Achievements. Huh. Just gonna log in real quick and add this to my account, because why not? It's back on there now. Add to account, free. Yeah, now I've got the Steam extension. I don't know how to apply this to my thing. It's downloaded a file. Like, it downloaded an actual file, and I don't know what this is for. I had to install that somehow, and I don't know if I can do that with GameMaker itself. I wonder what other free extensions there are. Alright, let's see here. Mobile review extension. XML extension. Desktop screenshots. This one's on sale. It's currently free instead of $6 from the Mojo Collective. Read from a file formatted with XML. So basically just allows it to interact with XML files instead of the INI files. Inverse kinematics? File dropper. Android permissions. zlib compression decompression. WebM player. iOS requests. App tracking. Flags aren't in the... What? What's Chimera? Twitch chat plus... There's Twitch chat integration extensions? Twitch chat and API? Wait, is Twitch chat just an IRC channel? Add to account, why not? Send and parse Twitch chat messages. Send and receive Twitch chat messages, send and parse Twitch API requests, simple to use, contains example use project. That actually, I could see that being used. What is flags? Global and local flags, reduce the amount of macros to use, as possible to use local flags as one. Oh, I see, it's just Boolean stuff. Like good old RPG Maker. Where I just remember back in the day, I have RPG Maker. Which one is it? 2? Yeah, RPG Maker 2 on PlayStation 2, which was a thing. And like the thing I remember from that, for some reason, is the flag tutorial where it teaches you like this is the flag. Yeah, might as well add a WebM player. Why not? But like it teaches you like this is what a flag is. This is what a flag does. It allows you to set a true-false statement that lets you like clear NPCs out of the way, or you get to cut trees or whatever. File droppers. This lets you move files into the game. Allows you to drag and drop files and folders to your game window. Oh, it's an MIT license thing. Neat. What's this inverse kinematics thing, though? Extension contains functions for easily operating robotic arms or snake rope-like shapes. Inverse kinematics, in short, is the process of calculating the joint positions in relation to each other from a specified endpoint. Oh, that's handy. I might as well add that one. I don't think I'm going to use reverse kinematics for a game about Pong, where two rigid bodies are hitting two other rigid bodies, but hey, you never know. What's Dark Spine? Oh, there's Python integration. Is Firebase a Firefox thing? What's Firebase? No, it's Google. Mobile and web apps. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just looking through this stuff because it's all fascinating. I'm wondering, like, what exactly these are if you break them down. Are they, like, coded in GameMaker and they're just, like, a bunch of macros or things that are... Is it, like, a second program built in GameMaker specifically to help games made in GameMaker interface with stuff in your computer? Like, is that what's going on here? Easy menu system. Spriter for GameMaker. Facebook, Google Play. Amazon Games? Amazon Game Circle. What the hell is Amazon Game Circle? I've never heard of that. Amazon Game Circle. Game Circle announced. That was 2020. No, it was 2012. Oh, it's like Amazon's version of the app. Android stuff, I guess? I'm actually not entirely sure. You know, I'm gonna grab this easy menu thing because this one actually might be useful. Although it looks like it's Final Fantasy style, like, text boxes. Oh. So this is specifically a program called Spriter, which I'm not familiar with. Oh, is this what people use when they make like the sprites that kind of like rotate around each other? Yeah, it totally is. When people make sprites that are like the sprites that are like rotating parts around a base. Like that's what they use when they do that. I see. I mean, it's not the only thing you can use it for, clearly, but that's probably what most people do use when they use a 2D sprite creation thing. I'm curious, is there a buffer thing on here? Neural network? Neural network? Arduinos? Okay, I'm gonna stop looking at this because this is something I'm just gonna get lost in if I don't stop now. I got the Steam one, that's the important part. Okay, so system. Event can only be triggered by call to action from some of the Steam extension functions, that's Steam in general. Right, calling any function that triggers the event generate a unique async ID value, which should be stored in a variable and checked. ID is the ID that triggered the event. Result is the result of the operation. This will either be a GML constant, result success, or some other real number. Event type. Uploading day on the Steam function. Ah, I see. So it's just going to be a string that tells you what it is that's happening. Okay. System. It can only trigger by callback from system level events such as detection of gamepad or the automatic signing in until Xbox Live. And return a DS map stored in the variable async load, containing different key value pairs depending on the system level event that triggered the callback. These events are gamepad, oh my god, this simplifies a lot of things. This simplifies a lot. So, on async system, when the async system event happens, it'll give you gamepad event type gamepad discovered, which means there's a new gamepad that's been connected, or gamepad lost, which means it's been disconnected. And it'll tell you the pad index. So what in that case I could do is I could is there a let me see something. Here's the variable that exists. So let's see something here. If instance exists, if undefined. Ah, that's perfect. That's actually perfect. If so, like this would be if controller I is undefined, where I is blah 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 blah, then set I to be that. This is perfect. That's exactly what I'd use. And that basically gets to negate this entire thing. Well, no, not this one. This one stays. This one is I need to assign a player to the thing based on how many controllers there are. That's fine. This whole thing, on the other hand, doesn't need to exist anymore. This can now go away. So I get GP slot, and then that number is whatever. So let's do this. Asynchronous event. So we're going to keep that open for the moment. I can leave that. All right, so add event, asynchronous system. Got it. Generate a DS map. What's a DS map? Thanks for going back here. What is a DS map? Data structure map. Section useful one lets you store key and value pairs. For example, a character in your game can have a quantity of different items, keys, and for each individual item, he can have a number of them values, like in an RPG. You can 10 health potions, 5 potions, 100 gold. Maps maintain such pairs, and all together in one place, you can add pairs to the map and search for the value corresponding to certain keys as well. Map index, blank key. Apart from the six bow, use an expression called an accessor to add and modify the contents of your DS map. The accessor looks similar to a 1D array with the following syntax. Interesting. Okay, so this is basically just advanced arrays. Not significantly more advanced arrays. It looks like it's a specific format that the arrays are written in. Anyway, we've got here gamepad discovered, gamepad lost, and pad index. This is important. When a gamepad is plugged into the device running the game, it's assigned a slot value, which is its pad index. This index value then used in all further gamepad functions to identify it, and on most platform pads are indexed from 0. First platform connected to slot 0, second slot 1. Not always the case. On Android, you can have a bunch of things. The first gamepad connector is actually placed in slot 1, OS reserves slot 0 for Bluetooth, or in Windows it may be slot 4 if you're using an X input pad such as a PlayStation or Switch controller. You can get the slot ID regardless of what's going on. As come together in our game. Thanks to this event, we have no need to code specific step event codes to listen for gamepads and simply add some code to the system event to catch any changes and assign variables. You're gonna have a creative player if the gamepad is detected and destroyed if there's not. So, in the async system events we just added, put the following actions. Is there a way to delete variable? Okay, so get map value. Okay. Following actions. Okay, so get map. Okay, map is async underscore load. Yeah, async load. Event type is the key. Target variable event. And then a second key is add index. And that's going to go to pad. Okay. Then show debug message. Debug message. Debug message is event equals plus event. Just do this, couldn't I? Yeah, probably. Add equals add. Okay, then switch. Case constant. Gamepad discovered, gamepad lost. Oh, interesting. Huh. Huh. Switch is like a super if? So, let's see. Getting... What the hell does the switch thing do? Switch. In a number of situations, you want to let your instance perform different actions depending on particular value. You can do this using a number of consecutive if-else statements, but when possible choices get above 2 or 3, it's usually easier to use the switch element. Ah! This works as follows. First, the expression is executed, which is the thing going in the switch event. Next, its result is compared with the different constants after each of the case statements. So, if I get event, and then if event is equal to gamepad discovered, then you do that. If event is equal to gamepad lost, then you do that. Okay. What we mean is that the value in the case cannot be described, cannot be a variable expression, it must be a fixed value of any data type, like fight or 3 or the keyword no one. So yeah, it can't be a comparison. So it would have to be something like this, where I have a defined value. It can't be if blank is greater than 3. It would have to be if 3, then that, if 2, then that, if 1, then that. So if is better if doing comparisons like that. Switch is better when doing specific, discrete inputs. So switch, actually, thinking about it, if I go to the selector object here, for example. Technically speaking, it'd be better here, but it's hard to actually get this thing set. This is fine. I'm thinking... No, it's not this one. Okay, yeah, that's the step event. And I think, right, it's all, the selectors are all in the object. In the master objects. So in this case, for example, it would be better here. So inst selecting selector selected. Switch would be better suited here, where I'd get this variable, and then I would have a switch event that goes, if it's one case, then it means this. If it's one case, then it means this. And if it's another case, it means whatever. That's probably the better way to do it, although it doesn't seem to make too much of a difference in this instance. So, I don't know. Anyway. Going here. Let's see. No case has the matching value. The default statement will be executed. It's not required to have a default statement. If none is supplied, then no action will be taken when there's no matching cases. Default statement can be placed anywhere in a switch block, however, it's traditionally placed at the bottom after all the cases. Aha, so switch keyboard key. If it's case left or A, then that. How do I do case or? I know Reddit's not loading for me right now. This might be useful for the controller stuff, though, looking at it now, because I have, like, this example is case left or A, and then case right or D, or case up or W, or case down or S. Finite state machines. Would that work? I wouldn't be able to tell for sure. That might be worth testing. Just disable that for the time being. So those two. I'm not going to plug any controllers in for a minute. Let's try setting this to testing. Just make sure it doesn't break. It does break. Okay, so it's looking for GP slots even though I don't have any. Ah, that's why. which should be fine then. There we go. No gamepad's connected. Fine, fine. Right. So what I want to do now is I want to add to the step event. Right over here someplace. Do switch. Keyboard. Key. And if it's... wrong one. If it's, VK underscore left. Or VK underscore right. Then play sound. And then for case, VK underscore up, or VK underscore down. I don't know. Sprite. How do I set it? Draw sprite. Sprite. This. There. So up, down will spawn a sprite. Left, right will play a blip. Duplicate case statement found. 951. What do you mean duplicate? Expected. This. Combining. Equals. Now this is correct. Is it possible to do this? looks like it's not working. So the only reason I'm trying this is because the case statement stuff in GameMaker language allows you to effectively fit two cases into one. So it'd be good if I could, like, somehow either combine these two or do something like that, but like, I don't know if it's possible to, like, take a... I'd want, like, a thing that could drag this one out into this, like that, from two different cases. So case... Maybe if I do this, colon, case or DA. Maybe this? Assignment operator expected that. Is that a regular? It is. Case argument should be a constant. It seems like what I'd actually have to do here is two switches. So I would do, like, switch keyboard key and then go case V left or VK left. Oops. Case VK right. Right? And have both of these put into a variable and call it a assign variable. Let's call it input 1. And then after that point, on the next switch, I would go here, do a second switch over here, which is input, and then in the case that it's 1, then you play the sound. Like, that's how I would have to do it. Like, what? Let's do this, right? Oh, I didn't set the input variable. Right, it's fine. There. So, do this. So it only triggers when I press left or right, push up or down, it doesn't trigger. And that's how it would work. Which, you know what, that's actually probably fine. Because I did say I'm going to have to try sanitizing inputs. And this works for that instance. If I was doing it in GameMaker language, I'd be able to actually change it. So instead of doing that, it's actually pulling multiple inputs into the single thing and basically skip a step, but... you know, do with what we got. Alright, well, now I know how that works. The important part is I can't do the thing I want to do, but I can find a workaround. Anyway, back to this whole thing. Okay. So under Gamepad Discovered, we are going to do a bunch of stuff here. So under Gamepad Discovered, it's adding a bunch of stuff here like button threshold and access dead zone. So if instance exists, call it player add. Yeah, rather if it doesn't exist, then create object player. Okay, so this is slightly different. I'm gonna modify this after I'm done with it, but this is designed for a twin-stick shooter game, specifically. This is designed for a game where I guess you can have multiple players just pop in and out of the game if stuff gets set. But for now, I'm just gonna set it up so I can go, you know, that's what's going on here. So create instance. Obj player. At random room width. I'll just do room width. Room height. Instances target. Inst. Get instance count. Object player. Or rather, it's num. Apply to... I didn't know there was an apply to. That's actually interesting. Apply to... inst. Image index underscore num. What the hell is this? Set instance variable. Image index. Assign variable. Pad underscore num. Pad. There we go. So what'll happen here is it'll... Let's see. In this event, we're checking to see the event has been called. If it's a discover event, we get the slot ID for the gamepad and create an instance of the player object, assigning the slot ID to the instance. We also store the instance ID in the array on the controller variable so we can track the players that have been created and the gamepad slot they've been assigned. If you look at the create event for the controller object, you'll see that we initialize the array player to none. No one, which we've initialized with 12 entries, since technically we can connect up to 12 gamepads, although this prototype will repeat sprites after 4 have been added. On other platforms, it is not quite the case, as mentioned above, and gamepads can be assigned just about any slot, so the array will be created with more values, or you could use something like a DS list instead. now the gamepad lost case. Alright. If instance exists, player pad. Destroy instance. Destroy player. It's not plater, it's player. Destroy instance player pad. Unassign variable player pad, no one. These actions detect gamepad being disconnected and will destroy the instance that corresponds to the gamepad slot ID, as well as set the array with the instance ID to no one. No need to detect the controller in the create event, as the system event will be fired on game start if there's already a controller connected. Therefore, we can limit ourselves to placing all gamepad detection code in this event for our demo. In your own games, you might want to make the gamepad controller persistent, which I'm going to, and have it in the first room of your game, which I'm going to, and then assign gamepads to variables, which can be parsed when your game levels start, which I'm going to. Dead zones and thresholds, I don't really care. Debugging gamepads. You can also close the system event code. Now you can draw event to our controller. Basically, this is just doing stuff for telling which gamepad's connected to what. Turning, shooting. Excuse me, I'm a little bit tired today. I didn't even have to get up that much earlier than normal. Also, at some point, I might have to set up source control for this thing. Okay. So let's go back through here and see what I need and see what I don't when I'm dealing with this. So first off, create event. We've got this stuff here, which I actually will get rid of for the start. Why did I do GP vert? I'm actually not sure what that means. Gamepad... Gamepad vert. Oh, whatever. Okay, so first off, async load map. Hold on a second. Async load. What is async load? Why is it async load instead of async system? Oh, it says here, return a DS map stored in the variable async load. Okay, so that's where it is. That's where the map is located. Key event type, which is, yeah, event type gives gamepad discovered or lost, and pad index. Are these really? Oh, no, it isn't. Okay, so... Ah, my neck. So yeah, that's just for gamepads specifically. These ones are just specific for gamepads. In addition to that, the system also has virtual keyboards. Event is triggered when for a virtual keyboard being open or closed, or return the following key value pairs. Screen height is the height of the virtual keyboard. And keyboard status, which is hiding, hidden, showing, visible. Xbox Live can be triggered when targeting the Xbox One using the UWP export. So this is specifically when you're doing Xbox, and it'll let you... It'll basically just trigger a bunch of things depending on signing in status for Xbox Live on an Xbox One. Audio system status event type is specifically used when working with HTML5, triggered every time the web audio codec static context changes. Web audio context status changes. Means that if you have, for example, a piece of looping background music, then you can pause it or stop and restart it based on this event triggering. Be checked by looking for the following key value pair. Okay, so it basically goes like that's the event type, and then status of the audio system, which would be one of the following two strings. Available, audio system is initialized and available to play sounds. Unavailable, audio system is not initialized or the context is not currently running, and so it can't play sounds. All sound playing functions will return -1. Okay, interesting. Interesting. So, this is the only important one for the time being. Alright, get map value, switch. Alright, so this loads up the game. This, basically, every time there is a gamepad connected, this will load up and go, okay, what happened? Where's the gamepad? Got it. So, it'll give you show debug message, event plus event switch. Why? What does show debug message actually do? Show debug message function will create a custom debug message that is shown in the compiler window during runtime. Note that the message can either be a string or a real number. Oh, it goes here, I guess. I don't need these then. Right. So, event type gets loaded in. Event. If the event is gamepad discovered, then you check for the instance player pad. If it does not exist, then it creates a new instance for that player. So I can get rid of a lot of this for the time being. Specifically this, and that. And this. And these. These are all... These basically all specifically exist for determining what's going on. So let's just get rid of all that. And let's get rid of these. Which really just takes down to this. Ha 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 ha. Alright, so for starters, in the case that it's event. So what I want to do is I want to... Let's create the array. What did I label it as in the test object? I labeled it as like... I think I labeled it as GP slot. Yeah. So, create the GP slot object. It's gonna put this right here. There you go. I is there. GP slot I is 0. Now, what was the thing I wanted to do? I think I wanted to do was check if variable is or isn't undefined. Okay, so we are going to... We're going to loop eyes. So, gamepad discovered, new gamepad discovered. Pad index is right there. Wow. Okay. is... Okay, so I is created on the thing. So we are going to loop I... What should I do for I? Should I loop I until it hits 12? Or should I loop I until it hits this thing? What's the best way to do this? So basically, what I want to do is I want to assign... So what I do is I want to assign gamepad or GP slot I, right? I want to take GP slot I and assign it the variable pad. So I have like slot 0 or slot 1 or whatever is equal to the pad value. So I always have the pad in place. And I can always go like, okay, player 1 is assigned to this gamepad as opposed to... is assigned to this gamepad slot as opposed to this random number. That could change. Okay. So how do I best go about this? How do I best go about this? I'm wondering now if maybe that's the best option, because the gamepad loss thing does kind of throw a wrench into that. Because then what I'd have to do is I'd have to increment up through all the gamepads to find the one that matches and then remove that one from the list effectively. Whereas if I just do gamepad lost, gamepad whatever, or underscore pad, then I don't even have to worry about that. I suppose I could just do the same thing it was doing, where just do GP slot underscore pad is equal to pad or something. Set this one to -1, so -1 will be the null value. This one needs to be... Let's see if this breaks anything first. Okay, good. It hasn't broken anything yet. So let me get my controller plugged in. An Xbox controller. I really need to, like, organize this. I've got a bunch of controllers sitting over here on this table. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Okay? It's just a mess of tables and bags and folders. Okay, now, nothing's set right now, but that didn't break everything. It's a good start. That's a very good start. Nothing broke. Okay, so, yes, right. So let's add event, draw GUI. Let's see, now, there was a thing here, actually. There was an asynchronous thing about the asynchronous stuff. Where I think it mentioned I could have... What was the other thing? There it goes. If async event, other system event, 75. No, those are extensions. Okay, so what I can do here is, if async load is equal... is async load something that'd be true or false or what? Variables global in scope. -1 at all times. So if it's not equal to -1, then draw transformed value. So controller detected. 5. Let's set that at room height divided by 2. There we go. And then I'm going to set an alarm just so it waits for 30 frames or whatever. 60. Let's go make it a second. Alright, so now if we look on the left side, in a second it should go. No, nothing. Nothing. It's not doing anything. I'm wondering if the item is even spawning. Okay, well that didn't work. Let's make it 200. I don't know. Really should have been there. Should have been like right here. Hard to tell if it's working. Okay, you know what? Let's do this. I'll play a sound. That's the most reasonable way to do it, right? Play audio. Blip. And D right here. Play audio. Blip. There we go. So, controller is currently plugged in. No sound. No sound. No sound. Huh. Did I not spawn it in properly? Oh, I didn't. I never added the user event. I just never added it. Hey, controller is detected. Controller's unplugged. Plugging it back in right now. There it is. Took a second. Text still did not show up over here, but we did get sound confirmation, so it is working. All right. I can close this one too. All right. So we know it's working. Just, I don't know why it's not showing up here is all. Okay. So. Okay, anyway, so on create, it's working. Things are working as expected. So any new thing is basically going to be set to -1. Don't need to worry about that. Or rather, the first case is, the first slot is 0, that sets to -1. Every other slot on connection or disconnection will be set to -1 or 1. Or -1 or whatever the actual value is. Okay. So that's the controller's connected thing now. Now we actually do the step event. The hard part. I can get rid of GUI for the moment. Okay, so actually I'm gonna reopen test. Okay, so, what's the next step here? Let's add a code block here just so I don't forget what I'm doing. Go. Just a brief reminder of what I'm doing here. So, disconnects the game, or detects gamepad connection and disconnection. On connect assigns GP slot number to be number. Number is the gamepad slot. On disconnect assigns GP slot number to -1. So the gamepad is currently connected to slot 0 because it's an Xbox controller. If I connected to PlayStation controller, it would be assigned to slot 4. because that's the first X input controller. And so GP slot 4 is 4. And then on disconnect, it would assign GP slot 4 to -1, which indicates that it's effectively removed. I don't think there's a way to delete variable. I mean, there's not really a way to delete variables now, so it's just got to be, I either set it to -1 or I set it to 1. Okay. So what it was doing on that thing is it was assigning player... It was basically doing the exact same thing. It was just assigning a player to that value instead. And I don't want to do that. I want to assign players 1, 2, blah, blah, to get specific GP slots assigned to them. Which, yeah, this works fine. This works fine. Because this way I have variables I can assign to those spots instead of having to cycle through the gamepad connected slots. And doing like if checks. If this gamepad is connected, then assign. So what do I do next? So I've got this part. This part's fine, but like the hard part now is like actually getting it set up properly. So how do I do this? Sure how I do this now. Would I need to figure out where I put the button assignment. Like where does the person go to actually assign a controller to a person? Let's just do this. If I press R, then we do that. If key pressed, letter. If I see ORed R is what it is. I thought it was OR R. So if key is pressed, then we do this thing. If you press R, that allows you to assign controller inputs. So if you press R, then we're going to pull this thing. Now, player count is a variable I assigned, which is not really what I want. So, what I probably want to do is what do I do? Hold on, I'll be right back. Hmm. Okay, I had an idea here. Okay, so let me try doing this. I'm going to change this actually. Instead of being GP slot, it's going to be input. So it's going to be input underscore pad plus 1. And input type add plus 1 is going to be controller. What does no one actually mean? Okay, no one. Description, no instance at all, value -4. May seem odd, but many times while programming, your games will find you need to check if there are no instances at a location, on a collision, etc. You should use this keyword to check for nothing, something like this. I'm just going to set it to -1. So create input type. There you go. Now let's see here. I'm gonna try setting to the draw GUI here. If input 1 is not undefined, then let's see, draw transform value. This is going to be control, and this is input. Input 1. You know what, let me do... There. That way it'll be easier to see. input type. And call it ly 100. Okay, so let's see how this goes. There you go. Still set to input 0 though, which is a little odd. But now we unplug it. Input -1, input type -1. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect, it works. All right, because the input number there is actually the slot. So, if I actually unplug this one, plug in my PlayStation 4 controller here. For it. Not giving the right number. It's reading it. But it's not giving the right number. Why? Why isn't it giving the right number? Worked when I did my customized version. So what's going on with that? Why isn't it giving me the right value? Also, it didn't, let's see something here. I'm gonna exit real quick. Try restarting that. PlayStation 4 controller is plugged in right now. Input 0, input type 0. Curious. Very curious. Very, very curious. Very curious. Very curious indeed. Why is it doing that? Oh! Right, of course, that's why. Because I set it specifically to look at pad 1, or rather input 1, which is going to be only that, instead of input 5, I guess it would be. So input 1 is, of course, going to be 0. Rather, input... You know, that input's not going to work. Change to input 5. Our PlayStation controller is plugged in. So it should come up with... Hey, look at that. Input 4 type controller. There you go. Works. All right. Good. Right. Right. Okay. So that's fine. So if key pressed, we are going to do this. So key pressed. Okay. So that's asynchronous. Input assign variable. Let's do player count 2, let's say. So, when R is pressed, you're going to do a wow. Well, I don't actually use the I here at all, do I? Yeah. I could reuse that I. That works. So let's go. While I is not equal to... rather, is less than... player count. So, while I is less than player count on each step, you are going to... Oh, wait, I think I remember why I did this now, because the problem is... if the input types... Okay, if the input doesn't exist, then it's gonna break if I'm trying to cycle between the things. The demo works on the assumption, like the demo I was reading before, works on the assumption that the player is controlling the character that... or rather, the player's controller is going to be plugged in the order that they are. So player 1 is going to be using the first controller plugged in, player 2 will use the second controller plugged in, etc, etc, etc. That's fine in that instance, but in this instance, I may want to reassign controllers based on what's going on. So I don't want to have the player assigned to the controller, I want to have the controller assigned to the player, which is what's going on. In the demo, it was the player is assigned to the controller. Is it? Hold on. Yeah. In the other one, the player is assigned to the controller. I want the controller assigned to the player, which is the opposite, which is a little bit trickier. Okay, how would I do this? I guess I would actually have to do the thing I was doing before. So I'm not going to use I, I'm going to use P for this. And just create, let's make a new variable, E. Starts at 0. Okay, so I, input I. Okay, so in the event that it's a gamepad discovered event, while loop it up, while I no, it's not gonna be this really. Well, it would be input I is not equal to pad. Yeah. So while input I is not equal to pad, input I starts at 0. Or rather, it should be input I plus 1, shouldn't it? Because do I want input I to start? No. 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 I want input I starting at 0 is fine. Because the keyboard can just be input negative whatever. Actually, no, I can... Do I want to reserve input 0 to be keyboard? Do I want to do that? No, let's just leave it as is. I can just do a keyboard input type selection later on. Okay, so input I set to -1, because -1 is not a valid input type. It's either 0 for it's 0 to whatever for that, or keyboard. All right, so when it goes through, right? Input I is not equal. If input I is not equal to pad, then input I and then I is I plus 1 to increment it up. So actually, how did I do this in the test object? Well, x is not equal... Ah, that's right. I see, right. So actually, this should be less... This shouldn't be a while loop. This should just be a regular loop. So loop... So that'll just loop, and then I'll have a break input there at the end of it. If, input I is equal to -1, okay, and then I is I plus 1. That should be an else. And the break's going to go there. So if input I is equal to -1, then... Okay, so... variable I, input I is equal to pad, and then break, otherwise I increments up. And let's just set a breakpoint here just in case. If I just do a thing here just in case. If I is greater or equal to, let's say, 12, because there's not going to be more than 12 controllers plugged into a computer, then break. Okay. So, in the case that the gamepad is discovered, it'll loop this. Oh, right, and also, I becomes 0 again. So I starts off at 0. If input 0 is -1, then input 0 becomes pad. I gets reset to 0, break the loop. Just break out of it. If input 0 is already taken, then it moves on to the next one, which will be input 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or it'll be, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. It'll go through however many pads are currently connected, and I'm gonna be real, I don't even know if you can add, like, 12 controllers to a computer. That seems excessive. You know what? Fuck it, let's set this to 20. If I is greater than or equal to 20, break. Let's also assign variable I to 0. Reset it. There we go. Okay, so if the gamepad's discovered, it loops that around. So it loops this around until it figures out which slot is not taken, and then... yeah. It figures out which of the slots is not taken, assigns that one to the new pad number. So slot 0 will be pad 0, slot 1 will be pad 2, slot 3 will be pad 8, whatever. And it'll just go through them until it figures out which ones have not been taken yet. And then, once that's set, it'll clip that out. Now, the next part's going to be a little trickier. Okay, so anyway, that should be fine. If it's not there, then I increments, and if at any point I is greater than or equal to 20, it sets I to 0 and then breaks the loop so it doesn't continue forever. That's if gamepads are discovered. Set input there. Yeah, good. Okay. Now. And then also play a blip. Once the loop is done. So let's just see if that breaks everything. Good. Alright, now we're over here. So, in the case that the gamepad has been disconnected, instead of doing this, now we have to do something similar. I'll leave this for the time being. We are going to have to go through all the currently connected gamepads, find which one is disconnected, which isn't too hard. Just do the same thing over again, effectively. Basically, just go loop here, and then if is equal to pad. And this is if input I is equal to pad, then input I set to -1. Like that's basically what I want to do. And then input I set to -1. I get set to 0. Actually, let me set that as its own variable just in case. I is set to 0, and then break that loop. And then in this case, you get an else, and finally an if down here. which will do if I is greater than or equal to 20. Set I to 0 and break the loop. Yeah, so basically the same thing over again. Now, I can also do a switch here, come to think of it. Basically the same thing. So if I were to do it, it would be like a switch value. How do I do the switches again? Is it value? It's the thing I'm comparing to. Yeah, so if it's I... No. This isn't what I want. This does not work there. Right. So, here's the tricky part. Because doing this, let's say I have 4 controllers connected. So I have inputs 0, 1, 2, 3 connected, and they correspond to controllers in slots 0, 5, 8, and 12. Doesn't really matter. Now, the problem here is, what do I do with the other ones? The pads after that point. So if I, for example, unplug the first one, input 0. Input 0 is now set to -1, and the other 3 inputs remain. How do I move those down a slot? This would be its own sub-loop, actually. So if I did that, it would effectively start its own sub-loop in here, which would, if that's true, then set input I to input I plus 1. Right? Set I to 0. No, that wouldn't happen. So it would be set input I to input I plus 1, and then increment up I again. To just keep looping there until I hit the point where input I plus 1 is equal to -1, which means it's a non-thing. I'm not sure if they're non-existent, or if they're... No, because there would be non-existent, wouldn't they? I'm pretty sure they'd be undefined. Anyway, let's do this for the moment, just to make sure everything works. Okay, it's connected. Now we're going to disconnect it. It's connected. Now I'm going to connect up the PlayStation controller real quick. Control page. Alright, so direct goes in here. And that broke it. Execution area. Variable index 1 out of range. This is an async event, system event. Execution area variable index 1 out of range 1 input, blah blah blah. push execution error variable index 1 out of range. Master controls other if input I is equal to -1. I'm going to copy this. Okay, let me try. If I run it like this, what happens? Does it crash immediately? Yes, it does. Perfect. Okay, now what about if I unplug the Xbox? It's only a problem if there's two. It's only a problem if there's two. I plug the Xbox controller back in. Crashes. Okay. So what does it say here? Error in action number 1 of async event system event. Yeah, sure. Push execution error variable index 1 out of range. Okay, I see here. So it goes here. Aha! Right, of course. Because I didn't set the array up ahead of time. Right. Because in the create event, I only created input 0. Technically speaking. So what this will basically do is whenever new gamepad's connected, it'll get the gamepad count and it'll run up the amount of arrays to make sure that I have the correct number. So while is less than so while I is less than GP count, assign variable, and then afterwards assign I to back to 0 here. Input I is -1. Okay, wait, hold on. Not anyway. Undefined. So if input I is undefined, assign input I to there. Okay, I think that's actually it. Then just regardless of what happens, assign I is equal to I plus 1. Yeah, so while I is less than GP count, if this variable is undefined, it'll assign the variable input I to -1, and then it'll increment up regardless of if this is true or not. I will increment up to I plus 1. When it hits GP count, then we go back. It's just correct. Is this what I want to do? See, if there's 2 controllers plugged in, that means I will go up to 2, which means it'll create inputs 0 and 1. When it hits 2, it will skip the while loop. So this is good. This is fine. All right, so let's start this up. All right, controller. One controller is detected. Plug in the second controller. Crashed. And what does it say? Variable index 1 out of range. If input 1 is undefined. Okay. So that's not how you do it. If undefined is a value rather than a state. Oh, this is where I'd use no one. So it would actually be this then. If input I is equal to no 1. Okay, let's see if it works now. No. Variable instance exists. Function. Okay, so we call function. Variable instance exists. How do I use that? Okay, variable instance exists. You can check whether an instance scope variable exists or not. You supply the unique instance ID, which can be found in the form of the instance properties in the room editor, or is returned when you call the function. This is create layers when the variable need to check where a string is. Return true. Variable with the given name exists for the instance and false otherwise. So if I just do ID. So if I just do ID and input I. And this is. Okay, so and this is inp exists. Okay, that's not... Okay, so it's not working. How do I check if an array position has been initialized? So the suggestion here is just create the entire thing. Which honestly isn't the worst idea at this point. Yeah, honestly, that's probably the best thing, because like if there's like a hard limit on controller support in Windows anyway. It only supports up to 12. So if I just set an array that's 13 long, and that's not hard to do, because I can just loop through it until it hits 13. Although I would like to know if it's possible to check. So there's just no way it looks like to actually check if something exists or not. Like, there's no way to actually determine, okay, yeah, this variable does exist, this variable doesn't exist. Which is... It's a little unfortunate, honestly. Okay, Alright, so let's do it on the create event then. We're just gonna do this. Let's see, I want to do 4. For initialize, I is equal to 0. Condition I is less than 13. Do I want to do 13 or 12? Less than 13, because I don't... It's... I want to do 12? Hold on, what are the Windows controller limits? Again. Those limits... Controller... Support. I'm gonna hook up 24 controllers to my PC. What's the limit? X input is limited to a maximum of 4 controllers. Right. ID 0 to 3. I think GameMaker Studio 2... Yeah, 4 to 11. So there's only going to be 12 slots. So as long as I is less than 12, that's fine. So for loop, input I is equal to -1. And then assign the variable afterwards, I to 0, just to make sure. Because I don't know if this for loop does this I or its own I. Okay. So on asynchronous, I guess I can just get rid of all this nonsense now. So this creates the array 0 to 12, or 0 to 11, really. So, event type, get load, blah, blah, blah. Event, gamepad discovered, loop. If input I is equal to -1, input I is pad, I gets set to 0, break the loop. Else... I is incremented, and if I is greater than or equal to 12, assign the variable to 0 and break the loop. Actually, I'm going to move this over to here instead. That'll be the kill switch. Because if I is 12, that means it's trying to access input 12. So like if I do draw transform value here and just do input 11, for example. I'm just going to unplug one of these controllers to make sure nothing breaks before I do it. If I do input 11 as an example, input 11 should be fine. It'll just put a caption on there. It doesn't actually do anything, but because it's up in the corner and it's over there. You can see it right there. It's very small. It's actually, no, actually you can't see it. It's currently covered up by the now playing thing. Anyway, I'll set this to 5, and 400. So, this is an example here. Input 11 is -1. That's fine. But if I put input 12, that breaks it because there is no input 12. Input 12 is out of range. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Because GameMaker can't support more than 12 controllers plugged in at a time to begin with. So, this is now set, and this is, you know, whatever. Now, gamepad lost. On the gamepad lost event, we're going to loop if variable input I is equal to pad. This is actually not going. This is going to be changed. So instead, what is going to happen is we're going to loop this. For loop, initialize I is equal to pad. Condition I is less than 12, increment up by 1. That's not what I want, actually. Or rather, actually, that's not what I want. So, while I is less than 12, input I is equal to input I plus 1. Switch. Switch. All right. In the case that it's equal to 11, input I is equal to -1. And in other cases, input I is equal to input I plus 1. So while I is less than 12, I, and then sign after the switch, I is equal to I plus 1. Right. So, while so this will loop input I. If input I is equal to the pad that was detected as being lost, or rather, if it was not detected as the pad that's being lost, let's start with that one. What I set this one to? Greater than equal to 12. Yeah, it's fine. We're going to move this one up top so it stops everything else from happening. So, loop if I is equal to 12, I becomes 0, break the loop. If input I is equal to the pad that was just deleted, that means it's just not worth doing. That means it's not worth doing. Because all the set spots are set. The only thing I need to do is set slot whatever it... No, I don't need to do anything. Don't need to do any of this. This would be if I was shrinking the array each time I did it, but I'm not. I am just doing the one bit. Yeah, I don't need to do any of this. This is completely unnecessary. This is nice. This is nice tech. If I want to do something like shrinking the array, this is nice, but I don't need to do this. Because I can just skip, like, it's literally just... This part here will find the first one that is not equal to -1 and put the controller there. This one, and then it'll set it to -1, if the controller's not there anymore, which is useful, but it means I don't need to care about this stuff. I would care about this stuff if the arrays higher than the current controller number didn't exist. But they do exist. They're set to -1. They're set to a null value. But they exist, so I don't need to care about this anymore. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. If variable sign input I to -1. There we go. Okay, so if I is greater than or equal to 12, break the loop. If input I is equal to the pad, which means I found the pad that has been disconnected, set input I to -1, set I to 0. Break the loop. On all other cases, increment I up by 1, and at the end of the loop, it blips. Alright, so currently, go. That was my Stadia controller getting plugged in. I'm going to unplug the Xbox controller, which would have been input 0. Plug it back in. There we go. Alright, so now for funsies, draw GUI. We're going to draw some GUI. So, let's do... Where's Align? Text font, so draw font, controller. Where's alignment? There we go. Get set text alignment. It's gonna be, yeah, that's fine. All right, draw caption. So input 1 is gonna be input 0. That. Put 2, it's going to be input 1. Let's put this at 200, 200. Set these both to 5. And then 200, 400. Alright, so loading that up. And what does it tell me? So currently my first controller input is in slot, or it's input type 0, which means it's an X input controller, and input type 2, or input slot 2 is a direct input controller, which is correct. My Stadia controller is input 2, my Xbox controller is input 1. So now if I unplug the Stadia controller, it's set to -1. I unplug the Xbox controller, it's also set to -1. Now I'm going to plug the Stadia controller back in. This should put it on input 1. Good. Now plugging the Xbox controller back in. This should put it on input 2. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely 100% perfect. So now if I'm going to unplug the Stadia controller again, set to 0. Perfect. Just perfect. Alright. Good thing I was going very incrementally slowly with this. Now let's just do this for funsies. Stadia controller's getting plugged back in. Alright. Now I'm unplugging the Xbox controller. Plugging in the PlayStation 4 controller, which should go to slot 5. There it is. Now, I was gonna say maybe I can slip this into slot 1, but I can't because it's kind of locked into position. They're both X input, or direct input. I can't do anything there, unfortunately. Okay. Good. Now you can tell exactly what kind of controller just got plugged in there. Ha All right. Righto. Gotta ping for something here. Alright, gamepad inputs have been dealt with. So, now we have... Delete. 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 Okay, so the most important part is, this runs when the controller is plugged in. We now have total control over this stuff. So, yeah, this just increments up, creates the stuff. All right, so we have the player count variable now. We've set it to 2, just cause. So if P is not less than player count. Okay, while P is less than the player count. Okay, so we are going to... we have to do the thing where it was... this now. Well, input P is equal to -1. Oh, right, of course, right. All right, I did if for this. Okay. P is less than player count. Okay, so while input P is equal to P equal to -1. Ah, that's why. Because I had players doing this. So let's create a new variable here. Okay, and then assign int variable, input 1, player. Do I want to do that, or do I want to do player? Well, P is less than player count. Okay, so, input P Yeah, I'm really not sure how I'm going to do this one best, because this doesn't seem like the... This is like a temporary solution. I really don't know what I'm going to do with that for the moment. So, if input... Maybe I should do GP slot. Yeah, I'm going to do GP slot, because that's a better idea. Because it's actually descriptive of what's going on there. Plus, it's actually what I was doing here. Alright. So, while loop... I think input P number is still actually a good one to keep in there. I didn't want input and input P next to each other effectively. So, while input P is equal to -1... If gamepad button pressed... I also had an H. Right, I also had H in this. I can get rid of the async one for now. Let's just add H. If game... Okay, so... Input P is equal to -1. Okay, if gamepad button pressed, action bottom, assign variable. Let's set H to that. Assign variable P to P+1. Ah. That's why. Okay, so I can just deal with that later. So then... if keyboard key pressed... down, I guess? If keyboard key pressed down, let's just set it to down. Yeah, I should set that to 0. Okay, so... So I'll set that one to 0. And... it sets to 0. And P increments. And then at the end, assign variable h is h plus 1. That's directly under this one. Okay, if h is greater than or equal to GP count, H0, and then break. There we go. Okay. So we can change some stuff around now to make this work better. I should probably make that as user event, though, yeah. Actually just take that all out. Okay, so user event, call user event 0. User event 0 is, what is this thing's duty? It is runs assignment of controllers to players. There we go. So what I should probably do here also is assign set P equal to 0 there. Because in all instances here, H is the only thing that gets changed around to 0. But if I'm doing this thing specifically to reassign controllers, I want P to be 0. Because it'll break if I don't do that. Alright, so if P is less than the player count variable, which is currently set to 2. Also, let me set this to 13. And let's assign GP slot. Start at 1. Oh, no, right, that's what I wanted to do. Yes, this is correct. Okay, so this is going to start at 12. This goes to 0. I want the actual things, when I do the async stuff, to be incremented up by 1 slightly. So this one is pad plus 1. That's what I wanted to do. There we go. So the pads are always going to be set to 1 through 12. That's what I wanted to change. So 0 is reserved for keyboards. Right. Rather... Okay, no, GP slot needs to be incremented up by 1. Okay, so that is right. Okay, so that should be 13. That should be 1. Okay, so GP slot goes from 1 to 13. No. No. No, it still goes 0 to 12. Just the values inside GP slot start from 1 to 12. Okay. Okay, that's correct. This is good. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna get this finished and then I gotta go do other stuff, but I'm very close here. P player count, input P equal to slot. GP face, input P. Okay, so while input P is equal to -1, which defaults to, on the create step, we have input P is defaulting to -1. If the gamepad button pressed is this, face, gamepad slot H, gamepad face 1, that gets set to there, good. Okay, so H gets reset. Gamepad slot H, GP face 1. Yep. So if input P is pressed, H gets reset to 0. Assign variable P is equals 1. Okay, down. Okay. If key presses down, H gets reset to 0. And okay, so this is if input P is -1. So if input P for player 0, which is first player, is equal to -1, which means it has not yet been assigned, it'll keep looping through here, and then H increases if H is greater than or equal to greater than or equal to 12. Do I want 12? No, I want 13. 13's the new limit. Is it? No, it's 12. It's still 12. 12 is still the new limit. 12 is still the limit. Anyway, Anyway, it'll do that, and then it'll assign h back to 0 and break the loop. Yes. It'll assign to 0, break the loop. Okay, so to do this, if key pressed, also set a variable. I'm going to just call this key assign to 1. Key assigns defaults to 0. Okay, so after user event 0. Okay, I'm gonna make a draw GUI. So if variable key assign is equal to 1, then text draw transform value scale 5, 400, 400. Player 1, press A or down. Press A or down to assign key, and this is value P. Let's see if this works. Press R. Press A or down to assign P0. That doesn't seem to be working. Input P is equal to -1, GP slot H. I probably haven't fixed. Okay. GP slot H, which starts off as 0, button press 1 face is pressed, input P for that, 0, P gets incremented up. If right. This will only happen while R is being pressed. There. So if R is pressed, key assign is set to 1, and then it'll start doing the thing. Okay. And it broke. Variable index 2 out of range. Input P. Input P. Why did it go to input P? Is 2. Oh, I see. I see. So it actually tried to get P2 before anything happened. because I didn't break out of the loop. Right. I think. So this would be, if, this would be, P equal to 2, then break. Just like that. All right. P equals 0, and PSI is equal to 0. This is going to have to get cleaned up later. Press A. So theoretically, that should do it now, but it's hard to tell because I need to set up other stuff. I don't know, man. It's just complicated. It's complicated. But hey, it doesn't seem to have broken everything, which is a good start. I basically don't need any of this stuff now. Okay. So I am going to leave this for now. I've got to figure out... I'm going to have to figure out next time... You know what, actually? Because this seems like it's mostly just going to be like... compressing and figuring out like how the loop is sort of breaking. So I may just do this on my own time when I have free time over the week. And next week I'll come back and we'll actually get around to implementing custom inputs and actually getting this controller stuff linked up to the game that's playing. So that'll be next time. For right now though, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining me on this little adventure into game dev. I'll be back tomorrow with Pathfinder. Yeah, Pathfinder, Midnight Fane into Act 4. Should be a good time. Also, this music has once again been the StreamBeats Lo-Fi playlist. It's a really nice one, honestly. I think it's this one and Ambient are probably my favorite too. I thought I liked Chiptune more, but it's a little bit too high energy. So, yeah. Big thanks to them as usual. I'll be back with more of this next week, and I'm really hoping that next week will be the point when controller input finally gets added in, finally, for real, finally. This has been kind of a hassle. This has been actually a huge hassle. I'm learning a lot about the limitations of the program and all that stuff, but still kind of a huge hassle. Just because you gotta do, like, all this stuff, man. If I want to do it the way I'm doing it, it's a huge hassle. If I want to do it the way that they're doing it, like, this is excellent. This GameMaker is really, really excellent for prototyping. Like, if you want to just bullshit out a game real quick just to have something that's functional and works, GameMaker is great for that. Because there's enough hooks and enough tools that you can push out something that is not polished, is not optimized, does not have a load of features, but does the one thing you need it to do. But if you want to make something that works well and is optimized and has a whole bunch of shiny features, you need to do a lot of under the hood work to get it to work properly. Like the menu stuff I did, if I was just cheating in like a menu, I would just be like, okay, object here, object here, object here, mouse control, close this instance, done. That's it. That's all I have to do. But if you want to have like, okay, I want the menu to have mouse control. I want the menu to have keyboard control. I want the menus to go to specific things, to have different functions, blah, 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 blah. Settings, all this stuff. Whole other beast. Way more intensive. But again, if you just want to like, if I was just sticking with just make functional Pong, I've did that. That took me like 3 hours to do. For a complete new person to this. All this other stuff, a lot more work. So, it has its uses, but ironically, making games may not be the best use. Making prototypes, easy. Games, not so easy. I see now why people were jumping ship to other things. Apart from like the subscription model they've decided to go with. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thanks for stopping by as always. I'll be back next week. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, what have you. And see you next time.